Deep beneath the rolling hills of Cappadocia, where fairy tale chimneys pierce the night sky, lies a labyrinth so vast it could swallow a small town whole. The ancient city of Derinkuyu, hidden for centuries beneath layers of soft volcanic stone, has long been whispered about by locals as a gateway to something older, something that never quite belongs to human hands. How did a civilization carve a network of tunnels, chambers, and towering halls deep enough to accommodate 10,000 souls, and why does the earth itself seem to pulse with a secret that refuses to be explained? The first recorded glimpse of Derinkuyu came in 1963, when a curious villager, Evmi, uncovered a hidden doorway while renovating his home. He descended into darkness and emerged into a cavernous space that stretched for miles, rooms stacked like a vertical city, ventilation shafts that breathed fresh air from the surface, massive stone doors that could seal entire levels with a single turn of a massive wheel. Archaeologists have dated the earliest construction to the Hittite period, yet the engineering is astonishingly advanced. Stone blocks fitted together without mortar hydraulic lifts that could raise water, and acoustic chambers that amplify whispers across dozens of meters. Even more baffling are the sections that no one can map. Some passages end abruptly against walls of unworked basalt, as if the builders hit an invisible barrier. Others descend into sheer drops that vanish into blackness, where explorers report sudden drops in temperature and an eerie, metallic scent that lingers long after they return to the surface. In one sealed chamber, researchers discovered a collection of bronze artifacts, strange symbols etched into the walls, and a series of shallow pits filled with a fine, ash-like substance that never oxidizes. Theories abound. Some suggest a refuge from invading armies, others argue it was a religious complex designed to commune with the earth itself. A handful of scholars even propose that the deeper levels were never intended for human use, hinting at a purpose that stretches beyond our understanding. As you stand at the mouth of Derinkuyu, the wind rattling the ancient stone doors, you can't shake the feeling that the city below is still alive, waiting, perhaps, to reveal what lies at its deepest heart. The question remains, what ancient secret does the darkness guard, and are we truly ready to uncover it? What could a stone whisper when it's dragged from the icy depths of a Siberian riverbed, its surface smooth as polished glass, yet etched with patterns no human hand could have made? This is the enigma that has haunted researchers and locals alike for more than a century. The water stone, a monolith that seems to carry the weight of a forgotten cry, frozen in time and water. The story begins in the spring of 1897, when a group of gold prospectors from the remote village of Kolodnaya stumbled upon an object half buried beneath the mud of the lower Tunguska. At first, they thought it was merely a large piece of quartz, the kind that glittered in the river's current. But as they lifted it, the stone emitted a faint, resonant hum, more a vibration than a sound, that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the flow of the water itself. Those who were near reported an uncanny feeling of melancholy, as if the stone were mourning something lost long before their own ancestors ever walked the earth. Scientists who later examined the specimen noted several baffling characteristics. The stone's composition is a hybrid of silica, calcium carbonate, and trace amounts of magnetite, forming a matrix that should not naturally occur in the cold, low-pressure environment of the Siberian taiga. Moreover, the surface bears a series of concentric ridges, each perfectly spaced at roughly 12.4 centimeters, a measurement that matches the wavelength of the low-frequency infrasound produced by large river rapids. Some geologists propose that the ridges are the result of ancient, rhythmic pressure cycles, perhaps the echo of a massive flood that reshaped the landscape 12,000 years ago. Others, more inclined toward the mysterious, point to the stone's uncanny acoustic property. When struck, it sings a tone that aligns with the Schumann resonance, the planet-wide electromagnetic hum that some believe carries the Earth's own heartbeat. The most chilling detail, however, lies in the markings that run along the stone's sides. They are not random scratches. They form a repeating motif of interlocking spirals and what appears to be a stylized wave. When the patterns are overlaid onto a map of the region, the spirals correspond to the bends of the Tunguska River, while the wave aligns with an ancient, now dry lakebed known as Lake Serebryanny. Some indigenous Evenki storytellers recall a legend of a crying stone that guarded the entrance to a hidden water spirits realm, a place where the river once vanished beneath the earth, only to re-emerge miles downstream. No definitive explanation has survived the harsh Siberian winters. Archaeologists have unearthed no comparable artifacts in the surrounding tundra, and attempts to replicate the stone's acoustic signature in laboratory conditions have produced only partial results. One theory suggests that the Waterstone is a relic of a prehistoric culture that harnessed the natural vibrations of moving water for ritualistic purposes, encoding their prayers into stone. Another, more speculative, hypothesis posits that the monolith is a natural formation that, through a rare combination of mineralogy and pressure, inadvertently mimics a language we have yet to understand. Whatever its origin, the Waterstone remains lodged in the river's current, a silent sentinel that still hums with the pulse of the ancient waters. Those who have held it speak of a lingering sense of loss, as if the stone itself is still calling out, yearning for a time when the river ran free and its secrets were unburdened. The question lingers, echoing across the frozen plains. Is the stone a messenger from a vanished civilization, a natural acoustic anomaly, or simply a reminder that some whispers of the earth are meant to remain unheard? The river continues to flow, but the stone's quiet cry endures, waiting for someone brave enough to listen. The night was cold and unforgiving when the farmers of Lüneburg uncovered a burial mound that had lain silent for more than 3,000 years. Their shovels struck something hard, and beneath the layers of earth they found a wooden coffin, its lid broken, its contents half-eaten by time. Among the skeletal remains lay a polished, golden bronze disc, its surface etched with a bewildering map of stars, suns, and strange symbols. How did an artifact that looks like a piece of the heavens end up in a modest German grave, far from any known Bronze Age civilization that could have produced such a masterpiece? The object, now known as the Nebra sky disk, measures just 20 centimeters across, yet its significance dwarfs its size. Radiocarbon dating of the surrounding wood places it firmly between 1,600 and 1,500 BCE, a period when the region was populated by the Unetis culture, people who worked copper, not bronze, and whose artistic repertoire never before included celestial cartography. Yet the disk bears a bronze alloy composition, an astronomical horizon line, a golden sun or full moon, and a series of tiny gold circles that correspond to the Pleiades star cluster. Its reverse side shows a lunar calendar, a band of 13 moons that matches the lunar month cycle. Scholars have debated its purpose for decades. Some suggest it was a priestly emblem, a portable instrument for tracking the solar and lunar cycles that dictated agricultural rights. Others see it as a status symbol, a gift from a distant, perhaps even mythic, trading partner, a token of power meant to legitimize a chieftain's claim over his people. Yet the most unsettling theory comes from those who study ancient trade routes. The disk could be the remnant of a lost network that stretched from the bronze workshops of the Balkans, across the Danube, and up into the Germanic forests, a corridor of exchange so extensive that it carried not only metal, but knowledge of the heavens themselves. What makes the Nebra sky disk truly uncanny is the precision of its astronomical markings. The alignment of the golden arcs matches the sunrise and sunset at the summer and winter solstices for the latitude of the fine spot. The Pleiades cluster is placed at a point that would have been visible just before dawn during the spring planting season. In a time when most societies still relied on oral tradition to mark the seasons, this metal disc appears to be a sophisticated, calibrated calendar, an instrument far ahead of its era. Even more puzzling is the absence of any comparable artifact in the surrounding archaeological record. No other German Bronze Age site has yielded a similar sky chart, and the nearest parallels are found thousands of miles away, in the Mycenaean palaces of Greece and the burial mounds of the British Isles, where bronze lunisolar devices have been discovered, but none with the same combination of artistry and scientific accuracy. Did a lone traveler bring this piece across continents, or does it hint at a forgotten civilization whose reach spanned the continent like a hidden constellation? The disk's discovery raised more questions than answers. Why was it buried with a single individual, perhaps a warrior or a priest, and not placed in a shrine where it could continue to guide the community? Did its owner die suddenly, forcing a hasty interment, or was the disk itself a sacrificial offering, meant to return the knowledge it held back to the sky? And what of the strange, almost indecipherable symbols that flank the celestial motifs? Could they be a proto-writing system, a code that once unlocked the secrets of the cosmos? As researchers continue to probe the metal with modern spectrometry, as astronomers overlay its markings onto the night sky, and as linguists wrestle with the enigmatic glyphs, the Nebra sky disk remains a silent witness to a world that once reached for the stars and left only a gleaming fragment behind. Its sudden appearance in a German grave whispers of lost connections, of peoples who understood the heavens long before the Greeks, and of a mystery that refuses to be fully illuminated, leaving us to wonder. What other celestial secrets lie buried beneath the soil, waiting for the darkness to lift? What could be pulling at the very soul of the Namib, a desert that stretches for 1,000 kilometers under a sky that never seems to darken? And why does a needle-sharp compass spin like a mad dancer over a single, isolated patch of sand? Deep in the heart of this ancient sea of dunes lies a magnetic anomaly that has baffled geophysicists, explorers, and even the local Himba shepherds for decades. It is not a storm, nor a simple iron ore deposit. The readings jump and dip in ways that defy the known laws of Earth's magnetic field, as though the planet itself had forgotten a piece of its own compass. The story begins in 1997, when a German research team, equipped with the latest magnetometers, set out to map the subtle variations of the Earth's field across the Namib's coastal dunes. Their instruments, calibrated to detect changes as small as a few nanoteslas, recorded a sudden surge of nearly 500 nanoteslas within a radius of just a few hundred meters. The anomaly was centered near an unmarked sandstone outcrop, a place the locals call Ukiniela, meaning the place where the Earth sings. What makes this phenomenon even stranger is the lack of any obvious source. No metallic ore bodies have been found within a kilometer, and satellite surveys show no subterranean structures or volcanic activity that could generate such a field. Yet the ground itself seems to hum, a low-frequency vibration felt by those who stand with their bare feet on the sand, described in whispered accounts as a tremor of the planet's heartbeat. Several hypotheses have been offered. Some scientists point to a massive concentration of magnetite crystals hidden deep beneath the surface, perhaps the remnants of an ancient meteorite that crashed long before humanity ever set foot on these dunes. Others suggest a forgotten, buried basaltic intrusion, its iron-rich lava cooled in a way that created an unusually coherent magnetic domain. A more speculative idea, whispered among geologists, is that the anomaly could be the lingering echo of a geomagnetic reversal, a pocket of ancient polarity trapped in the rock layers during the last great flip of Earth's magnetic poles some 780,000 years ago. Adding a human layer to the mystery, oral histories from the Himba speak of a spirit stone that once stood at the center of the anomaly, a sacred object that was removed by colonial traders in the early 1900s. When asked, the elders describe a sudden shift in the winds and a night when the stars seemed to fall, as if the very balance of the desert had been disturbed. No physical evidence of such a stone has ever been recovered, but the correlation between myth and magnetic data remains unsettling. Even modern attempts to replicate the anomaly have been inconclusive. A 2014 expedition, led by a team from the University of Cape Town, deployed a portable squid magnetometer, hoping to map the field with unprecedented precision. Their data confirmed the intensity, but revealed an erratic pattern that changed from day to day, as if the anomaly itself were alive, breathing with the desert's temperature cycles. Some researchers propose that the extreme diurnal temperature swings scorching heat by day, freezing cold by night, cause the magnetic minerals to expand and contract, shifting the field in a way no current model predicts. So the Namib's magnetic mystery endures, a silent enigma buried beneath dunes that have watched empires rise and fall. It invites us to consider how much of Earth's inner workings remain hidden, and whether the planet holds secrets that are not merely geological, but perhaps even cultural, woven into the stories of the people who call the desert home. The compass still spins, the sand still sighs, and the question lingers. Is the anomaly a relic of an ancient impact, a forgotten geological process, or a doorway to a deeper, unseen pulse of the Earth itself? The answer, like the desert night, remains just out of reach, leaving us with a lingering chill that refuses to fade. Imagine a single vellum page, its fibers softened by centuries of damp caves, ink faded to a ghostly brown, and a strange, almost hypnotic drawing that has baffled scholars for more than 400 years. That page belongs to the Codex Marinus Asterisk, a 12th century manuscript discovered in the ruined library of a Benedictine abbey on the coast of Galicia. At first glance, the codex appears to be an ordinary collection of liturgical chants and marginal notes, but hidden among the Latin prayers lies a map, unlike any medieval cartography known to us. The drawing stretches across the lower margin in a sweeping, almost fantastical curve. Rather than the familiar outlines of Europe, it depicts a vast, uncharted expanse of water punctuated by a series of islands, some labeled with names that sound eerily familiar, others left nameless, their outlines blurred as if the scribe could not quite grasp their true form. In the center, a large, coral-rimmed landmass is marked with the inscription *Regnum Marinum *, the Oceanic Kingdom, surrounded by symbols of waves, sea serpents, and a crown made of shells. The margins are annotated with cryptic Latin phrases, ubi merci claudit, ibi regnum latet, where the sea folds upon itself, the kingdom lies hidden. What makes this map truly unsettling is its apparent accuracy. When modern researchers overlay the medieval drawing onto satellite imagery, several of the islands line up with the remote archipelagos of the Azores, Madeira, and the Savage Islands, places that were officially discovered by Europeans only in the 15th century. Even more puzzling is a tiny speck of land that matches the shape of the mythical island of Antillia*, a phantom island that appeared on maps long before Columbus set sail. Some historians argue that the Benedictine monks could have accessed ancient oral traditions from seafaring traders, perhaps even remnants of a pre-Roman Atlantic network that linked Iberia to the far western islands. One theory, put forward by marine archaeologist Dr. Elena Vázquez, suggests that the Codex Marinus may be a fragmented copy of an older, possibly Celtic seafaring chart. She points to the stylized wave motifs, remarkably similar to those found on 7th century stone carvings from the northwest coast of Britain, and to the use of a compass rose that predates the known invention of the magnetic compass in Europe. If the monks indeed possessed such a chart, it would imply that knowledge of the Atlantic's hidden lands survived the fall of the Roman Empire, passed silently through monastic scriptoria, and was only rediscovered when a lone monk, Brother Matteo, dared to copy it onto vellum. But the manuscript also contains a darker element. Between the map and the liturgical text lies a short handwritten prayer in a shaky hand, Domine, protege nos profundis, ni nos rapet mare. Lord, protect us from the depths, lest the sea take us. Some scholars interpret this as a warning, perhaps a memory of a disastrous voyage that ended in catastrophe, the very kingdom they sought to chart swallowed by the ocean's unforgiving grasp. Others argue it is a later marginal addition, a medieval echo of the ancient myth of Atlantis, repurposed to fit a Christian worldview. No definitive answer has emerged. The Codex Marinus remains locked behind glass in the National Archive of Santiago de Compostela, its ink still whispering of a kingdom that may have existed beyond the horizon, or perhaps of a collective imagination that dared to dream of lands beyond the known world. As the night falls and the Atlantic wind howls against the stone walls of the archive, one cannot help but wonder, did the Oceanic Kingdom ever truly exist, or is it merely a phantom forged by the minds of those who longed for a world beyond the reach of their cloisters? The map waits, silent, for the sea to reveal its secret. What if the very ground beneath our feet could heal itself, sprouting stone like a forest after a violent tremor? Deep in the highlands of central China lies a place where that impossible vision becomes chillingly real, the Shilin, or stone forest, a labyrinth of limestone pillars that seem to rise anew each time the earth shudders. The story begins in the early 20th century, when a series of powerful earthquakes rattled the Yunnan province. Local villagers reported that, after each quake, the jagged silhouettes of the forest appeared more crowded, as if the stones themselves were pushing through the soil, reclaiming the void left by the quake's destruction. Modern geologists who have walked the paths of Shilin describe the phenomenon with a mix of awe and puzzlement. The forest is not a static monument carved by wind and water over millennia, but a dynamic system that reacts to stress deep within the crust. At the heart of the mystery are the limestone karst formations that dominate the landscape. Over thousands of years, slightly acidic rainwater has dissolved the rock, leaving towering columns and hidden caverns. Yet in Shilin, these columns display a strange regenerative quality. After the 1976 Haicheng earthquake, For instance, researchers documented a surge of new speleothems stalactite-like growths that seemed to sprout overnight from the base of existing pillars. In the months that followed, the forest's density increased by an estimated 30%, a change too rapid to be explained by ordinary sediment deposition. One hypothesis suggests that the seismic waves re-pressurize underground aquifers, forcing mineral-rich water through fissures that were previously sealed. When the pressure is released, calcium carbonate precipitates, building new stone layers in a matter of weeks. This process, known as seismic speleogenesis, has been observed in a handful of other karst regions, but nowhere with such visible, dramatic effect. Another, more speculative, line of thought points to the presence of subterranean microbial colonies that thrive on the sudden influx of nutrients caused by an earthquake. These microbes could act as catalysts, accelerating the crystallization of limestone in a way that defies typical geological timelines. While no conclusive microbiological study has yet been performed within the forest's hidden chambers, the idea has sparked interest among astrobiologists, who see a parallel with possible life-forming processes on other planets. What makes the Shillin truly eerie, however, is not just the rapid growth but the precise pattern it follows. The new pillars tend to align along fault lines, mirroring the invisible scars left by tectonic movement. It's as if the Earth is rewriting its own map in stone, using each tremor as a brushstroke. Locals speak of the forest as a living entity, a guardian that repairs the wounds inflicted upon it, and they warn travelers to respect its cycles, lest they awaken a deeper, unknown force. To this day, scientists return after every major quake, setting up instruments to capture the subtle shifts in humidity, pressure, and mineral content. The data are tantalizing, but incomplete, leaving the stone forest shrouded in the same mystery that first drew explorers to its haunting beauty. As the Earth settles and the pillars rise once more, we are left with a lingering question. Is the forest simply a geological curiosity, or does it hint at a hidden intelligence within the planet itself, a silent architect that rebuilds what we thought was forever broken? The answer remains buried among the stones, waiting for the next quake to reveal its secrets. What secrets lie concealed within the blackened walls of Patagonia's fire caves, and why have they haunted explorers for more than a century? Deep in the windswept steppe of southern Argentina, where the sky seems to bleed into the earth, a network of volcanic tunnels cuts through ancient basalt. The entrance is unassuming, a narrow mouth shrouded in mist, its stone mouth scarred by centuries of ash. Yet those who dare step inside describe an atmosphere so oppressive that even the faintest breath feels like it is being swallowed by the rock itself. The first recorded expedition dates back to 1906, when a team of Argentine geologists, led by Dr. Alejandro Lara, descended into the cavern to collect samples of the dark, glassy obsidian that lines the walls. Their journals speak of a low, humming resonance that seemed to emanate from the very stone, a sound that grew louder the deeper they went, like the distant rumble of a dormant volcano awakening. At the heart of the labyrinth, they discovered a chamber no map ever marked, a perfect sphere, 20 meters in diameter, its floor covered in a layer of soot that had never been touched by wind. What made this sphere so peculiar was not its shape, but what lay at its center. A collection of perfectly formed basaltic spheres, each the size of a fist, arranged in concentric circles. Their surfaces were etched with a series of spirals and intersecting lines that do not correspond to any known indigenous symbol. Some researchers argue that the patterns could be a primitive astronomical chart, perhaps marking the position of the Southern Cross at the time of the cave's formation. Others suggest a ritualistic purpose, a cosmic altar where early peoples offered fire to the stars. Adding to the enigma, when the Argentine team attempted to extract a sample, a sudden surge of heat erupted from the walls, raising the temperature by 30 degrees in a matter of seconds. The air grew thick with a metallic scent, and a faint, phosphorescent glow began to pulse from the fissures, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance to an invisible rhythm. The geologists retreated, their equipment malfunctioning, their notes incomplete, and the cave sealed itself once more by a cascade of loose rock. In the decades that followed, only a handful of daring spelunkers returned. In 1978, a Soviet-Argentine joint mission, equipped with thermal imaging, discovered that the interior of the sphere maintains a constant temperature of around 45 degrees C, regardless of the external climate, a natural furnace that defies ordinary geothermal explanations. Moreover, the the basaltic spheres exhibit a magnetic polarity opposite to that of the surrounding rock, a phenomenon that modern mineralogists still cannot fully explain. The most unsettling detail emerged from the recent analysis of sediment trapped in the soot layer. Radiocarbon dating places the soot at roughly 12,000 years old, predating known human settlement in the region. Yet embedded within the layer are microscopic traces of burnt plant material that match species thought to have vanished long before the last ice age. How could such ancient flora have burned in a cave that appears to have been sealed for millennia? Scientists continue to debate. Some posit that the fire caves are a natural furnace created by a long-dead magma chamber, its heat preserving the soot and the enigmatic basaltic artifacts. Others whisper of a lost civilization, perhaps a pre-Clovis culture, that harnessed volcanic fire for unknown rites. The echoing hum, the impossible magnetic reversal, the ancient soot, each clue deepens the mystery rather than solving it. So, as night falls over Patagonia and the wind carries the distant howl of guanacos, the blackened rocks of the fire caves keep their secrets locked behind layers of stone and heat. What purpose did the concentric basalt sphere serve? Who carved the spirals, and why did the cave seem to react to human touch? The answers remain hidden in the darkness, waiting for the next brave soul willing to listen to the stone's low, relentless chant. Deep in the jagged spine of the Himalayas, where the air is thin enough to bite, and the sky hangs like a permanent twilight, lies a ruin that has whispered its secrets to the wind for centuries. Travelers who have braved the treacherous passes speak of a stone sanctuary perched on a sheer cliff, its walls seemingly hewn not by chisel or hammer, but by the relentless breath of the mountains themselves. How could a structure be sculpted by gale and gust, its arches and columns bearing the smooth, almost lyrical curves of a master's hand, yet bearing no marks of human tool? The first recorded sighting dates back to a 14th century Tibetan monk, Lobsang Gyatso, who described stumbling upon the Temple of the Whispering Winds after a storm drove his caravan off the path. He wrote in his chronicle that the stone facade was smooth as polished jade. The inner chambers resonated with a low hum whenever the monsoon winds slipped through the narrow crevices. Even today, when the wind rushes through the remaining arches, it produces a faint, mournful tone that seems to echo the prayers of a civilization long erased from memory. Archaeologists who have examined the site note an absence of mortar, nails, or any binding material. The stones fit together with a precision that rivals the finest Incan masonry, and some blocks bear petroglyphs, abstract spirals, and wind-like motifs, etched with a depth that suggests they were carved after the stones had already been placed. One theory, proposed by Dr. Ananda Singh of the Indian Institute of Archaeology, suggests the temple was built by a forgotten culture that possessed an advanced understanding of aerodynamics, shaping stone to channel the monsoon currents for ritualistic purposes. Local legends tell of a hidden chamber at the heart of the temple, said to contain a crystal that captured the very breath of the mountains. When the winds blow just right, the crystal supposedly glows with an inner light, revealing a map of the sky as it was millennia ago. No explorer has ever reported finding such a chamber, and the crystal itself has never been seen, yet the lingering hum in the wind fuels the belief that something remains, waiting, perhaps, to be awakened. As night falls and the temperature drops, the wind intensifies, and the stone walls seem to pulse with an unseen energy. The echoes that travel down the valleys are not merely sound, they feel like a memory, a fragment of a ritual long forgotten, carried on currents that have outlived the builders. The wind-carved temple stands as a silent testament to a mystery that refuses to be solved, its very existence a question posed to the heavens. Who could have coaxed stone to obey the wind, and what purpose lay behind a sanctuary that sings when the world breathes? The answer remains hidden among the clouds, waiting for the next daring soul to listen. What if the frozen heart of the planet itself was whispering a secret that defied the very timeline we thought we understood? Deep beneath layers of pristine white, scientists have uncovered shards of metal that should not exist in ice older than a century. These anomalous fragments, tiny bolts, rusted rivets, even microscopic grains of alloy, have been retrieved from cores drilled in Antarctica's Vostok Station and Greenland's East Ice Stream, their depths corresponding to ages of 5,000, 12,000, even 30,000 years. How could the ancient atmosphere have known about steel, a product of the industrial age? The first clue emerged in 1998 when a research team extracting a 7 200-year-old core noticed a glint of silver among the snow crystals. Subsequent analyses revealed the composition: iron mixed with trace amounts of chromium and nickel, a signature of modern stainless steel. Radiocarbon dating of the surrounding organic material placed the ice at the late Pleistocene, far before any known human metallurgy. Some scholars suggest contamination, drill bits falling into the core, or modern handling leaving residue, but the fragments were embedded deep within the ice, sealed by countless layers of snowfall, untouched for millennia. One theory posits that a massive, unknown meteor shower could have delivered extraterrestrial metal, yet the isotopic ratios match Earth-derived alloys, not cosmic iron. Another, more unsettling hypothesis points to a hidden civilization that mastered metallurgy long before known history records it, perhaps a forgotten Arctic culture that vanished under the weight of climate change. The notion sounds like myth, yet the physical evidence remains stubbornly real. A third, more speculative idea invokes time-warped anomalies. In the 1970s, a handful of physicists warned that the planet's magnetic field occasionally creates temporal pockets where objects can be displaced across centuries. If such a pocket intersected a storm-laden glacier, a piece of a modern ship's hull could have been thrust backward, freezing in place like a phantom imprint of the future. The mystery deepens when we consider the distribution. Similar metallic specks have been found in ice cores from the Arctic permafrost of Siberia, in the same stratigraphic layers that also contain elevated levels of methane and unusual pollen. Could a global event, perhaps a super-volcanic eruption that lofted ash and human debris into the stratosphere, have scattered contemporary material worldwide, embedding it in the snow that would later become ice? The timing does not align with any recorded eruption, and no historical record mentions such an occurrence. What remains certain is that each fragment is a silent witness, a cold, unyielding question lodged in the planet's memory. As researchers continue to slice the ice, they find more of these anachronistic pieces, each one sharpening the paradox. The answer may lie in a discipline we have yet to master, listening not only to the chemical signatures, but to the story the ice itself is trying to tell. Until then, the frozen depths keep their secret, and we are left to stare into the abyss, wondering whether the past has already been rewritten by a future we have not yet imagined. What would you think if you stumbled upon a cavern of perfectly formed human figures, each one frozen in glass, their eyes staring out from centuries of darkness? Deep beneath the Sierra Madre, in an abandoned silver mine near the town of Chichai-Natsen, such a scene waited, hidden for more than 100 years, and it still refuses to give up its secrets. The story begins in 1915, when a group of Mexican miners, exhausted after weeks of relentless work, decided to explore a side tunnel that had long been marked as dangerous. Their lanterns flickered against walls slick with mineral deposits, and the air grew colder with every step. At the far end of the passage, the miners uncovered a chamber unlike any they had ever seen. The floor was covered with a thin layer of fine sand, and rising from it were dozens of statues, each standing between 3 and 5 feet tall. Their bodies were composed of material that, when touched, felt like smooth, translucent quartz, clear enough to see the faint outlines of clothing, hair, and even the delicate folds of skin. The figures were unmistakably human, their faces rendered with an eerie level of detail. Closed eyes, slight smiles, and the faint suggestion of breath caught in stone. Local folklore immediately seized upon the discovery. Some whispered that the statues were the remains of an ancient tribe that had been cursed for defying the gods, their souls turned to glass as a warning to the living. Others claimed the miners had uncovered a hidden burial site of the enigmatic Pueblo de Cristal, a civilization mentioned only in a handful of 16th-century missionary chronicles, which described a people who built homes and statues from a shimmering stone that never tarnishes. No definitive archaeological record exists for such a culture, yet the sheer craftsmanship of the figures hints at a sophisticated knowledge of stoneworking that predates known Mesoamerican techniques. Scientific analysis offers a different, equally baffling picture. Samples taken from the statues were examined by the National Institute of Anthropology and History, INAH, and revealed a composition primarily of silica, with trace amounts of lead, copper, and iron, elements commonly found in the surrounding ore veins. However, the arrangement of these minerals is unlike any natural formation documented in the region. The glass appears to have been heated to temperatures exceeding 200 degrees C, then rapidly cooled, a process that would require a controlled furnace. Yet no evidence of such a furnace, nor any remnants of fuel, have ever been found in the mine. One prevailing hypothesis suggests that the statues are the work of a 19th-century European alchemist who, according to a dusty ledger recovered from a nearby hacienda, traveled to Mexico in search of the philosopher's stone. Some scholars argue that the alchemist, obsessed with transmuting human flesh into everlasting glass, could have used local mineral resources to experiment in secret. The theory is tantalizing, but the ledger ends abruptly in 1883, offering no concrete proof that the experiments ever reached completion. Adding to the mystery, the statues emit a faint, almost imperceptible hum when a low-frequency sound is introduced, an acoustic phenomenon measured by a team from the University of Mexico City in 2017. When a tuning fork at 432 Hz is placed near a figure, the glass vibrates, producing a resonant tone that seems to echo the original voice of the stone. Some researchers speculate that this resonance could be the result of trapped air bubbles within the glass, while others wonder if it hints at a more esoteric purpose, perhaps a ritual meant to speak to the spirits of the dead. The chamber remains sealed, its entrance blocked by a collapse that occurred during a 1932 earthquake. Modern attempts to reopen the site have been halted by both the instability of the mine and a series of unexplained accidents. Equipment failures, sudden temperature drops, and a persistent feeling among workers that they are being watched by the glass-eyed figures themselves. Whether these are coincidences, the power of suggestion, or something far stranger, the unanswered questions linger like a cold breath in the darkness. To this day, the glass people stand silent, their translucent bodies preserving a moment frozen in time, a puzzle that intertwines geology, mythology, and the human yearning to understand what lies beyond the veil of history. As we stare into their clear eyes, we are left with a single, unsettling thought. What if the true secret isn't who made them, but why they were made, and what they might still be trying to tell us? Deep in the heart of the Amazon, where the canopy swallows daylight and the river whispers ancient secrets, stands a stone sanctuary that has baffled explorers for more than a century. The locals call it El Templo del Cielo Perdido, the Temple of the Lost Sky, a name that only hints at the mystery etched into every weathered block. What first draws a traveler's eye is the temple's precise orientation. Its central axis points not toward the rising sun, not toward the solstices, but toward a single point in the night sky that, according to modern star charts, has not existed for thousands of years. When the Jesuit missionary Father Miguel de la Fuente first documented the site in 1698, he noted a narrow corridor that, when illuminated by torchlight, frames a faint glimmer on the horizon. He described it as the eye of the gods, forever watching. Centuries later, a team of archaeoastronomers returned with laser theodolites and infrared cameras. Their measurements confirmed that the corridor aligns with the exact declination of the star, known to the Maya as Pleiades X, a bright, bluish point that vanished from the celestial sphere during the late Holocene, swallowed by the slow drift of the Milky Way's spiral arms. How could a people living deep in the Amazon, far from the Mesoamerican heartlands, possess knowledge of a star that was already fading from the night? Some scholars argue that the builders were part of a forgotten, pan-continental network of astronomer priests who shared sky maps across vast distances, passing knowledge like a sacred fire. Others suggest a more unsettling scenario. The temple was constructed during a brief epoch when the star still burned, and the builders deliberately anchored their rituals to a celestial beacon that would soon become a ghost, a promise of permanence in an impermanent world. The stone walls themselves bear glyphs that resemble, though not identically, the Maya's glyph for star birth. One particularly striking relief shows a figure raising a staff toward a cluster of dots, perhaps an offering to the vanished star. Yet the glyphs are unlike any known Amazonian script, and no comparable examples have been found elsewhere in the basin. This hybrid of artistic languages deepens the enigma, hinting at a cultural exchange lost to time. Recent radiocarbon dating of organic residues embedded in the mortar places the temple's construction around 1200 BCE, a period when the star's luminosity was already diminishing. If the alignment is intentional, the builders either possessed a prophetic foresight or were following an older, perhaps mythic, star map that survived oral tradition long after the star's light faded from the heavens. The jungle has kept its silence, and the night sky over the temple now offers only a black void where that ancient beacon once blazed. Yet, when the moon is high and the wind sighs through the vines, a faint glimmer can be seen through the corridor, an illusion, perhaps, or a reminder that some alignments are not bound by the physics we understand. The temple stands as a silent question, a stone-bound invitation. What other forgotten threads bind the earth to stars that no longer shine? And what stories lie buried in the darkness between? What if a civilization that vanished centuries ago left behind a warning? A set of symbols so cryptic that even the most learned scholars today cannot agree on their meaning, yet all eyes turn to them whenever the planet trembles. Deep in the jungle of the Yucatan, hidden beneath layers of moss and stone, lies a slab of obsidian black limestone etched with a series of glyphs unlike any other found in the Maya world. Discovered by a modest team of archaeologists in 2014, the stone was unearthed in a sealed chamber of the Temple of the Whispering Wind, a structure that had been abandoned long before the Spanish conquest. The glyphs form a continuous spiral, each turn populated by strange, angular figures, some resembling the familiar calendar symbols of Bactuns and Catuns, others completely alien, with elongated eyes and jagged teeth. When researchers first recorded the slab, they noticed a recurring motif. A stylized jaguar head surrounded by a halo of dots, followed by a series of 13 bars, then a sudden break, and finally a massive, dark spiral that seems to swallow the previous marks. One theory, proposed by Dr. Elisa Marquez of the National Institute of Anthropology, suggests the spiral represents a great turning, a cosmic event that repeats every 13,000 years, aligning with the Maya long counts ending of a cycle. Another, more controversial, interpretation comes from a handful of astronomers who argue the dark spiral mirrors the path of a comet that, according to ancient oral traditions, was foretold to strike the Earth with fire. The intrigue deepens when the glyphs are compared to the recently deciphered Maya Catastrophe Codex, a fragmentary manuscript found in a remote cave near Palenque. The codex describes a sky serpent that will rise when the heart of the earth stops beating. The same jaguar halo motif appears there, paired with a sequence of 13 thunderclaps, a number the Maya associated with both creation and destruction. Some scholars, like Professor Adrian Verla, caution that the correlation may be coincidental, noting that the jaguar was a ubiquitous emblem of power. Yet the alignment of the spiral, the number 13, and the ominous language of the codex cannot be ignored. Adding a chilling modern twist, satellite data from the past decade shows a subtle increase in seismic activity along the same fault line that runs beneath the Yucatan Peninsula. While geologists attribute this to natural tectonic shifts, the timing, just a few years after the slab's discovery, has sparked whispers in academic corridors about a possible echo of an ancient prediction. Could the Maya have encoded an astronomical event, a massive solar flare, or a planetary alignment that would trigger worldwide upheaval? Or is this a case of pattern seeking, our minds desperate to find order in chaos? The stone remains sealed, its glyphs untouched by light, as the jungle swallows the whispers of a people long gone. Every time the earth shudders, every time a comet streaks across the night sky, the question returns: did the Maya foresee a catastrophe that is already unfolding, or have we merely stumbled upon a haunting enigma that will forever haunt our attempts to understand the past? The answer, like the spiral itself, continues to draw us deeper into the darkness. What if every stone circle, every buried city, every inexplicable inscription is not an isolated oddity, but a fragment of a single, concealed chronicle, an ancient narrative erased from our textbooks and erased from memory? Imagine a world where the basalt columns of the Giant's Causeway, the perfectly aligned stones of Göbekli Tepe, and the massive, unmapped basalt walls of the Sacsayhuaman fortress are not random marvels of human ingenuity, but markers left by a civilization that once spanned continents, wielded knowledge of the heavens, and vanished without a trace. Consider the Bronze Age artifact known as the Phaistos disc, a 15-centimeter disc covered in spiraling symbols that no linguist has deciphered. Nearby, on the shores of the Aegean, lies the enigmatic Vix grave, a burial mound filled with artifacts that suggest a level of craftsmanship and trade far beyond what we thought the Iron Age could produce. Far to the east, the L-shaped stone monoliths of the Jomon period in Japan bear a striking resemblance to the megalithic alignments of Western Europe, hinting at a shared source of design or a common cultural thread. When the Earth itself seems to protest, when the blood falls of Antarctica pour crimson water rich in iron, or when the sailing stones of Death Valley glide across a flat desert floor without any visible force. Could these phenomena be the lingering aftershocks of a technology or ritual lost to time? Some researchers propose that the strange magnetic anomalies recorded over the Nazca lines are not mere geological quirks, but remnants of a sophisticated energy grid, perhaps used to power structures now buried beneath layers of sediment. Even the most puzzling texts echo this possibility. The Voynich manuscript, with its indecipherable script and botanical sketches of plants that do not exist today, sits beside the enigmatic Rongorongo glyphs of Easter Island, both defying modern analysis. If these writings belong to the same lost tongue, they could be fragments of a global ledger, a codex that chronicled a world order that predated known empires. And then there are the creatures whispered about in ancient chronicles: the Mongolian deathworm that supposedly stalks the Gobi, the Mokal Mbembe, reported along the Congo's tributaries, and the lake monster of Okanagan. While many dismiss them as myth, the consistency of their descriptions across isolated cultures may hint at a common origin. Perhaps remnants of a species that once coexisted with early humanity, now hidden in the shadows of our planet's most remote corners. All these threads, stone, metal, ink, blood, and bone, might converge into a single tapestry. A tapestry woven by a civilization that mastered astronomy, engineering, and perhaps even bioenergy, only to be undone by a cataclysm that erased their cities, their languages, and their memory. The gaps we see today could be the scars left by an ancient flood, a comet impact, or a prolonged volcanic winter that forced survivors to scatter, each carrying only fragments of their knowledge. So, as we stand before the silent stones of Karnak, gaze upon the eerie glow of the green flash over the Pacific, and turn the brittle pages of a centuries-old codex, we must ask ourselves: are we merely piecing together a shattered puzzle, or are we walking the very edges of a forgotten history, waiting for the final piece to fall into place? The answer remains buried, whispering from the depths of time, urging us to keep digging, keep listening, and keep wondering what truly lies beneath the surface of our world.